About a few forwards that could be on the move. Could that be the case at Manchester United? We know that they need to sell. Darmish, Rasmus Højlund, let's start with him. Is he any closer to getting a move away from Man U?
Not yet, but look, we know AC Milan were interested. They wanted to do a loan with an option. It's understood now that AC Milan couldn't convince Manchester United forward Rasmus Højlund to join on those current terms because Manchester United and Højlund, in an ideal scenario, wanted a permanent deal. Now, this may sound like I'm about to contradict myself because of what I'm about to say. Milan, meanwhile, are now trying to close a deal for the Bayer Leverkusen striker Victor Boniface. RB Leipzig, they have been tracking Rasmus Højlund throughout this transfer window. They have been speaking to Manchester United about a permanent deal. And if a deal can be agreed in the last 12 days with Manchester United, then it will be up to Rasmus Højlund to decide whether he wants to go. Now, here comes the contradictory bit, because Sky in Italy are now reporting that Napoli are now pushing really hard to try and do a deal for Rasmus Højlund, and it would be a loan with an option to buy. So not a permanent deal again. However, we think that Højlund might be more open to that particular deal than the AC Milan offer, because Napoli can offer Champions League football, which AC Milan cannot offer at the moment. Clearly, this would be by the by at the moment, because it would have to be cleared by Manchester United, any kind of deal that Napoli would propose, be it a loan with an option, because we do know that United's preference is to do a permanent deal. They want around £40 million for him, or if it is to be a loan, they would want some sort of permanent element attached to that deal. Initially, Rasmus Højlund wanted to fight for his place, but he was left out of the squad completely for that defeat on Sunday against Arsenal at Old Trafford. Head coach Ruben Amorim hasn't completely closed the door on Rasmus Højlund staying, but he has said that he shares the same characteristics as the new striker, Benjamin Sesko, and it is clear, given how the squad has been picked in the first game of the season, that Rasmus Højlund is going to find his game time limited. Definitely one to keep an eye on in the last 12 days, but it looks like now Napoli are pushing. They've got Romelu Lukaku, remember, who is injured. They don't know how long yet, but they think
so that could be a key thing here.
It could be. It could be months rather than weeks at the moment, which would again imply what would happen if Rasmus Højlund went and then Lukaku gets fit. Is Rasmus Højlund going to be back up to Romelu Lukaku? Potentially, yes, but if he goes there, plays really, really well, then Antonio Conte might have a decision to make on his selection.
OK, interesting. We've got our eyes on that. Højlund, one of the players that they'd like to move on if possible. Garnacho is definitely in that camp as well.
Yeah, a player that's been muted about leaving Old Trafford over the course of this summer, but as of yet there's been no firm offer to Manchester United. We know that Chelsea have been in dialogue with Manchester United throughout the course of this summer. It's a little bit of a poker match, really. Who blinks first? Because we know that Manchester United will value Alejandro Garnacho at around £50 million. And they're probably right to say that, because you look at the players that have moved in those kind of positions. Anthony Elanga, around £50 million. We know that João Pedro, around £50 million. There are multiple players that are all in that kind of remit. So that's where their price tag comes from. However, Chelsea would rather pay around £25-30 million. They want to, sniff out a deal here. And they believe the longer they leave it over the course of this summer, the greater chance they're going to be able to get the price they want, because they know that Manchester United need to sell as well because of the number of outgoings. Alejandro Garnacho has made it quite clear he has one preference and one preference only, and that's to join Chelsea and move to London. That's what his desire is. If you're asking me and putting me on the spot, I'd probably say Garnacho to Chelsea is probably a deal that happens. However, Chelsea have to be really careful about what they spend this summer, because they have this UEFA business plan, this agreement that their player purchases do not exceed their player sales. They need to sell more than they spend, and that's where they're caught in a situation. Probably expect this one to rumble right to the wire.
Right, OK.
If you look behind us, there's one other player that we are going to talk about who is in the news as well with regard to departures. It is, of course, Jadon Sancho. Roma, they haven't given up on striking a deal for Jadon Sancho yet. Their head coach, Gianpiero Gasperini, he absolutely loves Jadon Sancho. He is the key driver of this deal. They made an offer worth £20 million did Roma to Manchester United, which I think United will probably agree to in principle. Then it was down to Jadon Sancho himself. However, as it stands, we think Sancho wants to explore other options in the final 12 days. Besiktas and Borussia Dortmund are among a number of clubs who are interested in Jadon Sancho. Besiktas managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but we don't think at the moment that Jadon Sancho wants to go to Turkey. But if we get to the end of this transfer window and he's still a Manchester United player, the Turkish window is actually open for another 11 days. So you'll be sitting here again for another 11 days, maybe talking about Jadon Sancho. Yeah, but again, another one to keep an eye on, a Jadon Sancho situation.
Gut feeling of those three players, Højlund, Sancho, Garnacho, who leaves first?
Who leaves first?
Yep.
There's only 12 days left, mate.
Who's the closest of those three to leaving Manchester United, do you think?
The one that looks the most likely, but not necessarily going to leave first, is Garnacho, as Mark mentioned there. Rasmus Højlund as well. I think they all will actually get a move before the end of this transfer window.
Yeah, you see that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with Jadon Sancho 1 year left, we know that Manchester United want rid of him. The Højlund stuff, it feels like it's just a case of where does he go? Leipzig, Napoli, unlikely to be Milan, and Garnacho, Chelsea. It's a marriage made in heaven. It just needs to happen.
And they might need to sell a player or two first as well. Right, let's get on to Nottingham Forest, because they've had a really busy last few days, which is exactly what the manager was asking for, wasn't he?